All right guys, so I got 4 courses stacked here. I can't go up any further until I start putting some scaffolding on. The first thing it utilizes is going to be unistruts here. I also have like this half-size unistrut here. So this is going to be the system that I'm going to be bracing my walls with here. So right now I'm at the point where I'm ready to mass produce these. I need at least 20 of them. I know that doesn't sound like that many, but it's a lot of work. So I got my own little turnbuckle system here. If you loosen these bolts right here, just loosen them up a little bit, this whole thing will slide up and down. And that way you can adjust the height. I wanted to get a nice set of braces. They're just really expensive and I just couldn't justify it. If you guys have been watching this build, you know that I'm trying to keep this on a budget because I'm paying for it out of pocket. I'm not using a loan. I hope to have no mortgage when I'm done. So I figured I got enough of these channels to make 28 brackets. And by the time I bought them and bought all the hardware and that corner bracket there, everything involved with it, I'm looking at about $1,500. Maybe even a little less, $1,200 to $1,500. And then I have $8,000 worth of braces. I had this hinge laying around for quite a while now. That's from a different project. And it is really rusty and I should clean it up, but I really don't have the time. I need to cut this into 4-inch pieces and then I'll have enough to make 20 of them. big enough for the ladder. I can already tell that they're a little bit...
Huh.
They need another screw at the top. So I think what we need to do is lower the height a little bit. Not right now, but I'm just saying lower the height a little bit. That way there's room for a screw at the top. Because look.
Right, yeah, it's a little too wobbly.
And then this thing is kind of wobbling in itself like this. But that's only because we don't have 2 screws in each board. We need the 2 screws in each board, and it'll make it so it can't rack.
A little more. A little bit more. Right there. The other one's got to go in a little bit. A little more. 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 A little more. One more. Okay, one more. Okay, good.
So this feels pretty solid up here. And this board isn't even attached. There's screw holes underneath, so you can screw it from underneath with a short screw. And that'll help the whole thing from going like this. Because if there's 2 screws on it, it won't let it rack. We're gonna come up to about here with 2 more courses. But that'll be in the video to doing this. This is just getting these braces done. You can buy these braces right at the box store for shelving. And they say that they're good for 600 pounds. That's the working load, so usually it's like twice that where it actually breaks. But 600 pounds, I'm good with that, because really what I'm gonna have is just one person on this side, and then on the inside I'll have scaffolding set up, a rolling scaffolding, like a baker set. And then that way there's one person on the inside that's vibrating, person on the outside that's shooting the concrete in from the pump truck. We're always gonna have at least 3 people when there's a concrete truck here, so the other person can be adjusting this on the fly. You know, a lot of these braces you can adjust it from right here. You just bend down and adjust it, but it wasn't worth me engineering that into it, because there's always going to be another guy that can just sit down here and adjust that. So that's not a problem at all. Obviously a lot of those other braces are much better. They got a few more features in them, but at the end of the day these work, so I don't see a problem with using this for the rest of the house. And if I really get into ICF walls, I'll definitely pick up a set of really nice braces, and I can always keep these ones around and use them as like secondary, like when I get on a big project, and then I'll use those for primary. But for right now, almost $9,000 is just not worth me doing that. I wouldn't suggest doing it maybe exactly like this, just because I got a good deal on this channel, so it may not be worth it if you don't do that. I still think it's probably half the price, even if you have to buy them new, because they're like $40 a piece. So you might have an $8,000 set for $4,000 if you have to buy everything and you didn't get a good deal on these. So maybe it's worth doing it, I don't know, but this is what I'm doing. And I didn't want to use any wood. It's easy to make braces out of wood, but I just didn't want to get involved in that. I wanted something that was all steel. And then just the planks are wood. The only thing I might need to improve on is how the stakes go into the ground. What I was thinking, because this has holes on it, I was thinking of putting a pin in one of these holes and then driving it down until the pin makes contact with this plate. That keeps that plate flat. That's the only adjustment I think I really need to make. Either that, or I take a piece of rebar and put a bend at the top and then just use those as my stakes. That way it keeps it down. It still worked the way this is, but I would definitely be much happier if that plate would stay flat on the ground. I did adjust the wall in and out and that plate didn't move, so it shouldn't be a problem, but I'm gonna try to correct that before I actually put all these up. But that's it for this video, guys, so I'll see you guys on the next video in a couple days where we pour this, and then the next video after that will be pouring the floor up there.